The sun beat down on the quiet cul-de-sac with a warm, golden glow, painting the sidewalk in long shadows and illuminating the sparkle of freshly poured lemonade. A gentle breeze carried the citrusy aroma mixed with the sweet tang of sugar, drifting through the neighborhood like an invitation. The ice clinked softly in paper cups as Lily, just 9 years old, stood behind her hand-painted cardboard stand, her face flushed with excitement. Her mother, Sarah, watched from a lawn chair nearby, snapping pictures with her phone. Lily had spent all week planning this, mixing recipes, testing sugar ratios, even designing little lemon-shaped stickers for every cup. The money she earned today would go to help rescue dogs at the local shelter. She'd fallen in love with the idea after a school presentation, and now, with her long braid bouncing behind her, she passed a cup to a smiling neighbor with pride bursting in her chest. Mike, her father, was finishing up adjusting the small sign that read, "Lemon Love, $1 a cup. All proceeds go to pups," when the piece fractured like glass under a boot. Heels clacked against the pavement with militant precision. "Absolutely not," a sharp voice snapped, slicing through the summer air. "This is not acceptable." Everyone turned. Karen. No, one needed to say her name. Everyone already knew it. She stormed up the sidewalk like she owned it, hair immaculately sprayed into place, oversized sunglasses perched on her nose despite the growing shade. In her left arm, she clutched a trembling white Pomeranian that looked just as uncomfortable as everyone else did. Her lips were pursed so tight they seemed to be eating her face from the inside. "Ma'am." Sarah stood up slowly, confused, but already wary. She'd seen this woman around, always walking that yappy little dog, always scowling at anything remotely joyful. Karen stopped in front of the lemonade stand and looked at it like it was a crime scene. "This is a violation of local health ordinances," she declared, pointing one manicured finger at the cooler where the lemonade rested on ice. "There's no permit, no inspection. You're putting this whole block at risk." Lily's hands froze in mid-air, a cup of lemonade wobbling as her eyes went wide. "It's lemonade," Sarah said carefully. "She's a child. And I'm a resident," Karen snapped back. "One with rights. This is public property. Or did you forget that?" She turned to Mike without waiting for an answer. "Where is your permit? Your license? Do you have hand-washing facilities? Gloves?" "Gloves?" Mike repeated, dumbfounded. "She's 9. "Exactly," Karen hissed. "Too young to be handling food unsupervised in a commercial setting. You people clearly don't care about sanitation." Neighbors started gathering on their lawns. A few parents exchanged incredulous glances, but Karen's voice only got louder. "I've called the police," she said with an air of finality, as though that would seal her moral victory. "They'll be here shortly to handle this nonsense." Lily's lip trembled. "Am I in trouble?" "No." "Sweetheart," Sarah said quickly, pulling her daughter into a hug, but her voice cracked slightly as she glared at Karen. "Don't play the victim now," Karen said, brushing an invisible speck off her designer blouse. "Maybe next time, follow the law." And just like that, she turned on her heel and strutted back down the sidewalk, her tiny dog yapping once in smug approval. The neighborhood fell into stunned silence. It was the kind of silence that only outrage could fill. Within 10 minutes, a patrol car rolled up slowly. The officer stepped out, young, polite, clearly uncomfortable. He looked at the stand, then at the family, then sighed. "I'm really sorry," he said, crouching down to Lily's level. "We got a report. Technically, without a permit, We can't allow commercial sales like this. She's selling lemonade for charity, Sarah said, struggling to keep her voice steady. I get it, the officer said. Honestly, I think it's great. But there's a complaint on file now, and if another officer comes by, it could escalate. I'm sorry. I really am. Mike clenched his jaw. He didn't yell, didn't protest, just nodded as he began helping his daughter dismantle her little stand piece by piece. The sign was pulled down. The cooler sealed shut. The stickers peeled off one by one. Lily didn't cry until the last cup was dumped out onto the grass. Then it hit her, all her work, all her planning, the bright yellow apron she picked out, the banner she painted, the money she wanted to raise. It was gone, crushed under someone else's bitterness and power trip. Karen watched it all unfold from her window, and she smiled. Sarah caught that smile, and something deep inside her snapped into place. She knelt beside Lily, brushing her hair back. You didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. You were kind. You were brave. And you tried to do something good. That matters, Lily sniffled, her voice barely a breath. She hated me. No, Sarah said, looking toward Karen's house with eyes like ice. She feared you. There was a storm building behind Sarah's quiet voice. A storm Karen wouldn't see coming. The lemonade stand was gone. For now. But as they packed the car, Sarah took one last look at the now empty sidewalk, her mind already racing. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. The sun had barely risen the next morning when Sarah found herself scrolling through the neighborhood Facebook group. A routine she usually reserved for finding garage sales and babysitter recommendations. But now her eyes scanned every post with clinical precision, like a surgeon identifying a tumor. And there it was, freshly posted at 6:02 a.m. Thank goodness someone finally had the courage to address the chaos on our street. A child handling open beverages without any gloves, permits, or concern for hygiene? I won't apologize for doing what's right. Some of us care about standards. Karen M. The comments were split. Some praising her civic awareness, others calling her a fun sponge, a tyrant, a lemonade snatcher. But Sarah saw beyond the noise. This wasn't just about lemonade. It was about control. Karen wanted to be queen of a kingdom no one had elected her to rule. Sarah leaned back in her chair, fingers tight around her mug. She wasn't angry anymore. That had passed. What she felt now was something colder, more deliberate. Resolve. Across the table, Mike spooned cereal into his mouth, bleary-eyed. You're plotting, he said without looking up. She nodded. She made it personal. She always makes it personal, he muttered, glancing at his phone. Remember when she tried to get the HOA to fine the Wilsons for sidewalk chalk? Sarah exhaled a bitter laugh. And the Johnsons for their wind chimes. And the college kid down the street, because his car was too loud in the morning. She's addicted to control, Mike said. It's like oxygen to her. Sarah's gaze sharpened. Then let's take it away. Lily walked into the kitchen, her face still puffy from yesterday's tears. She held her lemon-shaped stickers in her hand, the ones she'd made for each cup. Can I still sell lemonade someday? She asked, barely above a whisper. Sarah knelt beside her. Not just someday, she said. Soon. But next time, we're going to do it right. We'll follow every rule. And when we do, no one, not even Karen, will be able to stop us. That day, while Lily went to school and Mike headed to work, Sarah sat down with her laptop. Her fingers flew across the keys as she typed in city codes, health permit guidelines, temporary vendor licenses. She bookmarked everything, even called the county health department for clarification. Every box Karen had accused them of leaving, unchecked. Sarah would check them twice. But logistics were only part of the battle. Karen's power didn't come from rules. It came from fear, from isolation. She relied on people backing down, avoiding conflict. Sarah knew if she wanted to break that pattern, she couldn't do it alone. So she reached out. First, it was Rachel, the mom 2 doors down, whose son had been scolded by Karen last Halloween for ringing her bell too loudly. Then Mark and Dave, the couple who hosted the block's annual 4th of July BBQ, until Karen reported them for an unauthorized gathering. Then the Pattersons, whose twins had been told their tricycles were cluttering the sidewalk. Sarah didn't need to explain. The moment she mentioned Karen and the lemonade incident, the words poured out like a dam breaking. Each neighbor had their own Karen story: harassment, insults, threats thinly veiled as concerns. What had once been whispers in passing became a growing chorus of indignation. They met that Friday in Sarah's living room. 10 families, all seated in a circle, sipping coffee and sharing stories. The tension that hung in the air at first melted quickly, replaced by an almost electric current of camaraderie. She posted a 1-star Yelp review of my 10-year-old's bake sale, Rachel said, shaking her head. She stood at the edge of our yard with a measuring tape, Dave added. Said our lawn decorations were 3 inches too close to the curb. Everyone laughed, but there was an edge to it. A shared understanding that they'd all been pushed just far enough to stay quiet. Until now. We can't confront her directly, Sarah said. That's what she wants. If you challenge her head-on, she doubles down. But what she can't handle is losing control over how she's seen. You're thinking social media, Mark said. Sarah nodded. She thrives off this image she's built. Perfect homemaker, community guardian, lifestyle guru. Her blog has hundreds of followers. If people saw what she really does, how she treats others, that image would crumble. Mike, who had joined the group late, pulled out his phone. I've been compiling screenshots, posts, comments, even the video from yesterday. The one from our Ring camera. He tapped play. Karen's voice crackled out from the speaker. You're putting the entire neighborhood at risk with this unregulated lemonade. Then came the officer's reluctant arrival, Lily's tear-streaked face, and Karen's smirk as she walked away. The room fell silent. That'll go viral in a heartbeat, someone murmured. Sarah smiled, not with triumph, but with certainty. Let's show people the truth. They agreed to launch the video together, timed with a coordinated post across neighborhood groups and local forums. They'd tell the full story, about Lily's fundraiser, about the permit overreach, about the pattern of behavior. Not angry, not emotional, just the facts. Let the public draw its own conclusions. Lily watched quietly from the hallway, clutching her lemon apron. She didn't say anything, but for the first time since the incident, her face showed a flicker of something beyond sadness. Hope. Later that evening, Sarah sat at her desk finalizing the post. She added the hashtag #LetLilySell, then paused before hitting submit. She thought of Karen, sitting behind her velvet curtains, sipping tea, oblivious to the storm on the horizon. Click, the post went live. And with it, so did the plan. The queen of the cul-de-sac was about to learn that even kingdoms made of picket fences and petty power plays could fall. Hard. The video exploded faster than anyone had expected. Within hours, It had racked up thousands of views, first among the local community groups, then spreading like wildfire to neighboring towns. By morning, it had been shared on a regional parenting page under the headline, "Neighborhood Tyrant Shuts Down Girls' Charity Lemonade Stand, but the Community Fights Back." Comments flooded in. Hundreds, then thousands. Strangers from all over offered to donate to Lily's cause. Some shared their own stories of petty neighborhood dictators. Others simply rallied with messages like, "Chand's justice for Lily," and "Chand's stand for lemonade." Karen's perfectly curated persona cracked before the sun had fully risen. Her blog, Civility and Charm, a modern lady's guide to elegant living, was hit with a barrage of comments. Some sarcastic, some furious, all relentless. Her posts on respecting community standards were now bookmarked with screenshots of her berating a crying child. Even her favorite local cafe, which she'd promoted as her secret slice of serenity, issued a statement distancing themselves from her conduct unbecoming of a community member. Inside her beige-trimmed house, Karen panicked. She paced like a caged lioness, tapping furiously on her phone, deleting comments faster than they appeared. Her voice, normally crisp and controlled, now shook as she left voicemails, one for her lawyer, another for the neighborhood association president, and a third for the local paper, demanding they do something about the smear campaign against her. But the truth was no longer something she could edit. Meanwhile, the neighborhood transformed into a celebration of resilience. That afternoon, with proper permits in hand, Lily and Sarah set up the lemonade stand again. This time, bigger, brighter, bolder. The new sign, painted in wide yellow strokes, read, "Lily's Lemonade, back and better." They set up in the park just 2 blocks from their house. Mike managed the music, playing upbeat tunes from a portable speaker. The neighborhood kids helped set up folding tables and string lemon-shaped balloons through the trees. Parents brought folding chairs and blankets. It wasn't just a lemonade stand anymore. It was a block-wide rebellion disguised as a party. By 3 p.m., a line stretched across the grass. Local news vans arrived shortly after. A reporter in a sleek blazer knelt beside Lily, microphone in hand, as she explained her mission to raise money for the animal shelter. Her voice still carried that soft vulnerability, but there was steel in it now, earned through humiliation, rebuilt with support. When asked how it felt to be back, she simply said, "Good, because people believed in me." Karen watched it all unfold from her car. She hadn't dared walk onto the park grounds. There were too many cameras, too many eyes. Instead, she sat parked across the street, shaded behind tinted windows, her lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. She thought if she waited it out, maybe the attention would die down. Maybe she could craft a response later, something dignified. Maybe she could regain control. But every cheer from the crowd chipped away at her illusion of power. She turned, up the radio, trying to drown it out. But the static between stations only made it worse. Back in the park, Sarah noticed the black SUV idling across the street. She said nothing, only gently nudged Mike and nodded in its direction. He gave a small smirk and whispered, "Let her watch." As the sun dipped lower, casting long golden streaks over the park, a surprise visitor arrived. Officer Green, the same young policeman from the first incident, walked through the crowd, uniform crisp, cap tucked respectfully under one arm. He approached the table with a small white envelope in hand. Sarah stiffened, but he smiled. "This," he said, handing it to Lily, "is a personal donation from the entire precinct." We pooled together some cash after we saw the video. We figured a girl like you, who stands up for good, deserves our support." Lily's mouth dropped open as she pulled out the check. It was made out to the animal shelter. For $500, people erupted into cheers. Even the news crews paused filming to clap. The moment shimmered, sweet and bright and perfect. But the real climax came just as the crowd began to disperse, and the golden hour lit the scene like a movie set. A second video began to circulate online, this one taken by the Pattersons from their bedroom window. It showed Karen on the phone with the police the day of the original confrontation. The audio was crisp. "I need someone dispatched immediately." Karen's voice crackled. "There's a child operating an illegal stand. She's handling drinks, unregulated liquids. You don't know where those lemons came from." The internet devoured it. Memes sprouted like weeds. Karen's face photoshopped onto lemons. TikTok skits reenacting her meltdown. One viral comment read, "Imagine being this pressed over a 9-year-old and a few citrus fruits." By that night, Karen Lemonade was trending nationwide. The final blow came quietly, with no fanfare. At the next HOA meeting, neighbors packed the room. The agenda had been revised last minute. Item 3B, Review of Misconduct and Abuse of HOA Authority. Karen sat in the back row, face pale, sunglasses perched despite the fluorescent lights. She didn't speak once. Not when Sarah calmly read a list of grievances. Not when the Wilsons submitted the petition of 30 signatures asking for her removal from any advisory positions. Not when the board, after a vote, barred her from participating in future enforcement decisions. She stood up stiffly and walked out before the meeting ended. Alone. Outside, the air was cool and quiet. She looked down the street, toward the park, where the faint remnants of yellow balloons still fluttered from lampposts. Her kingdom had fallen, not with a scream, but with a paper cup and a smile. The war she had started over a lemonade stand was over, but her punishment was just beginning. Karen never truly recovered from the fallout. Not socially, not publicly, not even in the quiet spaces of her carefully curated life. The neighborhood, once silent under her gaze, now hummed with freedom. Front yards brimmed with color. Chalk, drawings, pinwheels, even the occasional inflatable flamingo, none of which she dared comment on anymore. Every time she stepped outside, she felt the weight of invisible eyes, the muffled giggle of children, the awkward avoidance from once friendly neighbors who now saw through her pastel-polished facade. But it wasn't just the public scorn that unraveled her. It was the silence of her once loyal supporters. Her closest circle, the self-proclaimed Garden Club beauties, had gone radio silent. Her calls rolled to voicemail, her texts unanswered. Even Marcia, her right hand in all things HOA gossip, had posted a glowing comment under Lily's video. "Such courage and kindness in such a young soul. We stand with Lily." Karen felt the betrayal sting sharper than any internet meme. Still, she tried. She wrote a blog post titled "Misunderstood Manners, My Side of the Story," a rambling attempt to defend her actions with veiled criticisms of emotional overreactions and modern parenting failings. She wrapped her excuses in long-winded prose, but the damage was done. Comments poured in like acid rain, and by the second day, she deleted the post, and with it, her entire blog. Meanwhile, Lily's lemonade stand wasn't just a success, it became a community staple. Every Saturday, the little yellow canopy popped up in the park, and the lines never stopped. Local businesses donated supplies. The animal shelter named her their junior philanthropist of the year. Even the mayor paid her a visit, offering a proclamation declaring the second Saturday of the month Lily's Lemonade Day. But what truly mattered wasn't the fame or the fundraising. It was the change in Lily herself. Where once she hesitated before speaking, now her voice rang with confidence. She greeted customers with a bright smile and a practiced pitch, adjusting her apron with pride. Her eyes no longer darted anxiously at approaching adults. She had stood against someone who tried to crush her spirit, and she had won. Sarah watched her daughter grow stronger with every cup poured, every donation accepted. But she also knew Karen's silence wasn't surrender. It was a pause, a simmering, bitterness that hadn't been extinguished, only smothered, and she was right. One afternoon, while setting up the stand, Sarah noticed something odd. A man in business attire paced by the edge of the park, clipboard in hand, eyeing their setup like a hawk. She approached him calmly. "Can I help you?" He cleared his throat. "Just conducting a city inspection. We've received a few anonymous reports of unsanitary conditions and permit irregularities." Sarah didn't flinch. "Everything's in order. We have our food handler's permit, vendor license, and clearance from the Parks Department. Would you like copies?" He blinked, caught off guard. No, that won't be necessary. Just doing my job." "Of course," Sarah said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Tell your anonymous source to check her facts next time." The man walked off, clearly embarrassed. Sarah didn't even have to say Karen's name. Later that evening, after the stand had been packed up and Lily was fast asleep, Sarah stood by the kitchen window and watched the twilight settle over the neighborhood. Her phone buzzed. A message from Mark. "Check next door." She tried again. Karen had posted another screed, this time attacking the lemonade stand's supporters as virtue signalers and accusing the parents of weaponizing children for sympathy. The backlash was immediate. Within minutes, the post was flooded, with lemon emojis, sarcastic gifs, and mockery. But one comment stood out. From Rachel. It was never about lemonade. It was about a woman who couldn't stand seeing a child shine brighter than her bitterness. Karen deleted the post before the hour was up. The final blow came days later. Not from a post, not from a video, but from something far more permanent. Consequence. Mike walked into the kitchen holding a letter with the city's seal. "It's from the HOA board," he said. Sarah opened it slowly. The letter confirmed what many had hoped for, but few expected. After a formal review, Karen had been permanently removed from the HOA Advisory Council. Furthermore, she was prohibited from filing any further complaints against neighbors without board review and approval. It was more than symbolic. It was a public neutering of her power. Sarah stared at the letter, the official tone, the weight behind every word. It was done. Karen was no longer a threat, not because she had stopped, but because no one would listen anymore. Her voice, once feared, now fell on ears that had learned to stop giving power to the petty. 2 days later, Sarah saw her outside, dragging her trash bins to the curb. No designer gloves, no Instagram-ready outfit. Just sweats and a loose ponytail. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but like someone who'd finally realized the world wouldn't bend for her anymore. Their eyes met for a second. Sarah thought she saw something behind Karen's mask. Shame, maybe. Regret. Or just the brittle recognition of a woman who had lost not just a battle, but the illusion of control she'd wrapped herself in for years. Karen looked away, first, and that was enough. That Saturday, as Lily passed out her final cup of the day to a pair of smiling teenagers, she turned to her mother and grinned. "Do you think people will still come next week?" Sarah looked around at the park full of chatting neighbors, laughing kids, and the distant sound of someone playing guitar under a tree. "Lily," she said, ruffling her daughter's hair. "They'd come, even if we ran out of lemonade. You gave them something bigger than that." And in the quiet that followed, in the golden light of a setting sun and the laughter of a neighborhood that had found its voice again, one truth settled deep in their bones: courage, even from the smallest voices, can shake the tallest walls.